everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk About the POTS Life, your go-to podcast for all things POTS. Whether you're living with POTS or supporting someone who is, this is the place for you.
Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About the POTS Life. Today we have Dr. Erin Nance with us today as a special guest.
Yes, we are so excited to have her. Most of you might know from seeing her on social media, but I had seen her post, honestly, about POTS. I don't even know how long ago. I think it might have been 2 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And now having patients in office, they bring up your videos too. So I was like, I'm just going to reach out and see. And so I am so excited because I think you fit this mold in so many ways. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, I mean, I think I had created that video on POTS. It's at least 2 years old.
That's what I thought.
But, my journey on social media is, I'm a hand surgeon. I'm still a practicing hand surgeon, orthopedic surgeon. And someone had DM'd me kind of out of the blue and said, listen, I am desperate. I have had 10 years of fingernail pain and nobody believes me. I've seen 5 doctors. They can't find anything wrong. But I swear if I just brush my fingernail against something, I will jump to the ceiling. Could you help me? And because I couldn't help myself, I said, well, do you have a little blue dot under your fingernail? She said, I do have a little blue dot.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm. And I go, listen, you're going to ask your doctor to get an MRI of your finger. It's going to show you have a mass called a glomus tumor. You're going to go to see a hand surgeon. They'll take it out and you'll be cured immediately. So then 6 weeks later, I get another DM, only this one entitled OMG. And he's like, Dr. Nance, I got the MRI. Showed I had a globus tumor. Jeez. They took it out. I'm, better immediately. So after that interaction, I thought, why did it take this woman 10 years to get a diagnosis for something that I knew in 3 seconds?
Through a DM on social media.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I started a new channel that day. I called it Little Misdiagnosed. And that was the first video I ever posted, was just this little interaction. And that video went completely viral. And, it didn't have anything to do with the globus tumor or anything like that. But it was just so many people being like, nobody believes me. Yep. Nobody thinks my pain is real. I've seen 5 doctors and nobody can tell me what's wrong with me. So I really just kind of hit a nerve with people who are just been tired of being undiagnosed and misdiagnosed. And then I became this repository for everyone to be like, could you look into this?
Can you see what this symptom is?
And because of that is when I started my series, the 31 for 31 most commonly misdiagnosed conditions in women. And I was just telling the stories that the patients had been, or they weren't patients of mine, they were users, that they had been telling me. And then, because of my MD background, I did at least feel, at least qualified to give a broad spectrum, review of a lot of these conditions. But most of the content that I make comes straight from the patient experience itself, because they know way more and how to explain things way better than any expert can.
It is, and you can see why there's such a need. The POTS one, patients still in office talk about it today, or just seeing you sit there and say, it's real. It does exist. And when I was diagnosed, I closed the computer and my husband's like, why are you crying? And he's like, that was a great visit. I'm like, because I just feel validated. So I feel like even people seeing that video, it's like, yes, or it's hard to, once you're diagnosed, to explain to others how you feel. So even being able, people using that as a resource to say to their parent or friend, or, hey, this is what this is. Because sometimes you feel so many type of things, you don't even know how to verbalize it. So just having a great resource is huge.
Yeah, that's, and I never really even, thought about all the different ways that, this content could be viewed and consumed. And you're absolutely right in that a lot of times the patients don't necessarily have the vocabulary, to speak to the doctors in the vocabulary that we are used to, seeing. And I think what I had learned from a lot of the primarily women who had POTS was that they just felt like something was off, right? Like something is wrong. I can't put my finger on it. I keep going to the ER. Nothing is wrong. The
That was me.
EKGs are normal. Okay, everything is normal.
Yes.
And then they were telling me that they were looking at their Apple Watch data. And so they could have something like proof, right? To say, here,
Yes.
like, look, my heart rate was 200. It's not now, right? It's 88 now, but it was 160, an hour ago. And you kind of needed part of that, like, proof.
Yes.
And that's true. You need objective data
Yep.
as well as the subjective data. But the issue with POTS is that it was just very difficult to collect that objective data.
Correct. Yeah, you just feel in the beginning, and I think this is why mine went undiagnosed for 10 years, because I saw each different specialty, but nothing kind of overlapped. And it wasn't until the cardiac piece came in and the tachycardia came in. And then I knew enough being in healthcare to then take my own objective vitals to then show it to the doctor. But if not, if people just continue to describe how they feel, I often say, like, yes, is the tilt table end all be all? Sometimes not. But even a poor man's at home, the more objective data you can show them along with your symptoms, to at least take that into your visit, that helps you so much more.
Yeah, and even I just kind of saw some content come from the latest session on perimenopause and menopause, and right, for the longest time, our definition of, menopause was, 1 year of having no period. And the definition of perimenopause was, it was like 3 months with abnormal periods or something. And like the latest description from the experts on perimenopause is when you're in perimenopause is when the woman says, I don't feel right.
Yeah.
Okay? That's it. That's it.
Yep.
It's not, okay, this numbers and how many tampons
Yes.
and how many periods,
Yes.
okay? It's they notice a change in their body. It is not normal. They have gone their whole life and then all of a sudden something is not right. Okay, that is enough for the expert to go, okay, this could be part of perimenopause, right? And so sometimes, like I tell people all the time, I go, you know your body the best, right? And if something does not feel right to you, then it is something is wrong until proven otherwise.
Right.
Not the
You
other
have
way
that
around.
gut feeling. You
Correct.
know.
It's so hard to say, okay, I don't check all of these boxes, so I don't have this, or you feel gaslit as you have these symptoms and you've seen 10 specialties now and nobody can help you, but you know something is wrong. To have that thing is where you're saying, like, oh, perimenopause, when you know something's wrong, something is wrong, something has changed, so that internal voice in yourself reminding you know what's happening in your body. You just need to figure out the best way to say that so that you can get the proper diagnosis and help.
Yeah. And I say you have to collect the dots in order to connect the dots. And the problem is if you don't know what to collect, then that's the bigger issue,
Yep.
right? And that's when the health literacy part comes in. That's when listening to others who have lived experience with these conditions, because if you didn't realize or you didn't know that tachycardia was part of this syndrome where you felt faint, then you might have never thought to look at your heart rate or measure your heart rate. And that's part of just trying to, again, bring bigger disease awareness to
Correct.
the public, which is what my whole platform is about. Again, so that you can pick up on the patterns of symptoms. And you shouldn't use social media to be diagnosing yourself. You should be using social media to look for similar patterns of symptoms, and then you bring that data to your doctor and say, hey, I have X, Y, and Z. Do you think I could have POTS? Because if you don't put that out there and your doctor doesn't know what POTS is, you're never getting diagnosed with POTS.
You said that on one of the videos, and Britt and I were just talking about that before. You're right. If they don't know what it is, you're never going to be diagnosed. So even if, I've been a therapist almost 11 years. Oh, that's not what we learned in school. You know, like it's not brought up. So, and even from a PT perspective, and now I know how crucial that is. So I think the same thing, even in medical schools, even if you bring that word up and maybe like it wasn't this big lecture, but they might be like, you know what, it is. But then you have the right dots to be like, okay, I have this, or what about this, or just to bring a different light to it, or an idea that maybe they hadn't thought of.
Yeah, and there are a lot of different conditions right now where we don't have a smoking gun, right,
Yeah.
for a diagnosis, right? I wish everything could be as simple as a strep test.
Yes.
And you swab, okay,
And we know what it is.
Your throat, and within 30 minutes, it comes back strep
Yes.
throat,
Yep.
all right? A lot of times when I have patients, and I see a lot of patients for second opinions, they come into my office and my office manager gives me their medical history and they have 20 plus surgeries. Okay. I go, you have connective tissue disorder until proven otherwise. All right. I don't even need to hear anything.
Right.
Yep.
All right. There's no other explanation why you have had 10 ankle surgeries and 10 hand surgeries and all of these other conditions, right? And these conditions, they run in families
Yep.
because they probably all have the same basic science problem with them. We just have not found that smoking gun yet.
Yes. It's so true, because I always say, I call it KB research because it's just what I see. And you see family patterns, you see autoimmune, I have celiac disease. My mom was just recently diagnosed with this autonomic. You just see these patterns. And even if it's not something they're aware of coming in, if I say, hey, does your mom? And then the one girl the other day was like, well, I was talking about this at dinner and my mom and grandma are like, oh, we have that. And she's like, there's the problem. Like, we all have it. So you do see these patterns, but I think sometimes it takes just you simply saying that in a couple seconds to be like, oh, well, and no one has ever said that to them, or no one put those pieces together.
Yeah. And I think as physicians, we have a pattern recognition failure, right? And that is in part because in order for me to be the most incredible hand surgeon, right? In order for me to replant your hand, I have to be so hyper focused on training and learning how to do microsurgery and like replanting someone's hand, which means I'm not going to know all of the symptoms of POTS, and I'm not going to know all of the symptoms of endometriosis. But if I actually take a step back, 100%, there are probably symptoms of POTS. If a young woman comes to see me and she is seeing me because she broke her wrist, like, okay, you broke your wrist, I'm going to put your plate on your wrist. But why did you break your wrist? Oh, because you fell, because you fainted, because you had POTS.
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Right.
There could have been a time where we could have intervened and made a difference in that patient's life. But because we are so hyper-focused on doing what we know how to do well, which for me means doing hand surgery, that I'm not really taking into consideration why did this happen in the first place?
And I say that all the time. These physicians that I've seen in the past, they're great. Everybody's great at what they do, and I think that's the best way to put it. Everybody's in their lane and so hyper-focused in a great way that they know what they do, but it's hard to find, when you have these silent or hard to diagnoses, it's hard to be like, for one person to just pick up on it, because from a GI perspective, I looked fine. From a neuro perspective, I looked fine. So that's exactly right. It's sometimes hard. That's why you have to trust that gut. And if you know something's wrong, just keep going.
Yeah, and I did a TEDx talk a couple of months ago called "You're Not Crazy: The 7 Stages of Misdiagnosis," and I did it because I just kept seeing either in my followers their comments, or I have a podcast called The Medical Detectives, and I just picked up these patterns from our guests for the past year. There are stages that pretty much everyone goes through. And very similar to the stages of grief, right? But it gives people an emotional framework to understand, okay, it's normal to feel anxious as part of this process, right? It's normal to feel angry at some point during this process. It's normal to feel depressed. It's normal to be in denial, right? These are kind of all stages that patients go through. And it's very difficult if you find yourself in one of those stages to think, well, how am I ever going to get out of this, right? When 10 doctors say there's nothing wrong with you, well, no, duh, you start self-doubting and you feel depressed because you feel like
1000%.
nothing's ever going to get better. And unfortunately, what I have found is that the end stage is just apathy and people just give up. And again, I don't blame them because this is just part of this cycle that I see over and over and over again, right? For most people, when they get to that end stage, it's not, they're just tired. They're just over it and they don't want to do anything more.
You just reach the end of that road where you just don't have that fight anymore. And I think you see that a lot of times with the younger females that I have that are in high school. And I had somebody, she's the poor girl, she's 10. And she said to her mom 2 weeks ago, she was in here and she said, I don't even care if I get better. And I mean, you could see it. And as a mom, and I have 2 kids, that breaks my heart, right? Because when I know we'll get her through it, but her mom was like, these are valid, they're valid feelings. Like you're sick of feeling sick. You're sick of just not feeling like you're getting answers to make that change.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I made that talk, because I wanted people to understand that these aren't emotions to be ashamed of or feel guilty over.
No.
This really is, part of, this cycle. And there are ways to kind of get out of it. One is finding your, like we call it the North Star providers, right? People like you, people or North Star supporters, a family member, or someone who you meet online who's going through the same thing that you're going through, right? And these North Star providers, they may not even be the people who can fix something for you, but they're at least the people who believe you and who will not let you give up on yourself.
Yeah.
That's the young girl. She had a rheumatologist and her mom's like, she is that for us. She feels like she's heard, she's seen. We're at least going to come up with a plan. If there's just a plan, right? And we tell you, like, we're going to walk with you and the road is going to be bumpy. But if you have that support along the way and find like-minded people, it's that I think can go so far, because sometimes you just need people that when the days are bad and ugly, they understand the days are bad and ugly, but then also can be like, hey, it's going to get better. You need that whole team.
Absolutely. And you need voices from people who are just starting their journey, from people who have, been years into this journey, because it's really helpful to have that perspective and to say like, hey, yeah, there are going to be times where you're going to feel really angry, right? And you're going to be pissed
tears.
off. Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of tears. Okay. But to know that will not always be the case. But it's hard if you don't have that community and you haven't met anyone who's gotten to the other side, right? And that's where I really see the power of the scale of social media and helping bring people together and helping people get different perspectives from different experts. I have never claimed to be, outside of hand surgery, an expert in any of the conditions that I go over on social media. And part of that's why I built this Feel Better platform, is because I want the experts who are treating people who have the latest research to be the voices. It is just very hard for them to break through on social media as it is
There's
right
a
now.
lot of noise out there on social media, and it's hard to decipher if you don't know. To say, is this a valid source, or are they just talking something that they made up or Googled, and there's no backing to it. It's really hard.
Yeah. And I have always seen Feel Better as a place where both the physician expertise and the patient experience is equally valued and accessible. Because as I said, we can do our best to show what happens with, the experience that we've had with treating patients. We have the treatment for many. Whereas as an individual, you're an N of one, right? You have, okay, well, this is what I did. This is what worked for me.
Yep.
And I think it is, again, helpful for an individual who's searching for answers to collect as many of these different experience stories and then to go back to their doctor and say, do you think any of those would be appropriate for me given what my specific symptoms are? right? It's not to use social media to say, okay, I'm going to try this, which this one, person, in
Yes.
Ottawa tried.
Yes.
It may be that ends up being helpful for you. But exactly what you were saying, you have to know who the source of the information is. And right now on the platforms as they exist, those are the same places where the misinformation is coming from.
Oh, and
So I don't blame
Yeah.
people for being confused as to like who they're
Confused.
supposed to listen to.
and frustrated. I mean, I've talked with people who have spent thousands of these things because listen, a good creator, I mean, like I watch it too and I'm like, could that be it? And knowing how to treat POTS and having it, but sometimes I even get swept up in it. I'm like, oh my gosh, your app, tell everybody how they get it, because I really find it so important for a lot of people listening to that podcast are starting to collect those dots. So maybe not even fully diagnosed. And I feel like going to your platform will give them quality info instead of a lot of that noise and thousands of dollars spent and, just quality advice.
Yeah. Well, the app is called Feel Better, all one word, BETR. Although we're probably going through a brand change, but for now, it's Feel
That's where
Better.
you can find it.
Yes, that's where you can find it. And I really just wanted to create the go-to place for people to get credible health information from trusted medical voices. So in order to create content on the app, you are either a credentialed licensed expert or you're part of like a health foundation. And we really want that to be the source of the content. But as I said, I think it is still really important that we are able to connect people who have this experience. And that's why it has to be an engaging platform where people are able to comment, people are able to create group conversations, because I do feel like you learn as much from the experts as
Yes.
you do the people who have the same
Correct.
problems. The issue is how can we help those people get connected sooner, right? And faster. And then to be able to go back to your doctor and to say, hey, I saw this content from Dr. Cutchins, who's a POTS expert, and she was talking about, X, Y, and Z. Do you think that I could also have X, Y, and Z? And that's really the intention, right? It's to empower you to have a better, more well-informed conversation with your doctor.
And I think that just going into those appointments with that credibility behind there is helpful, especially if doctors aren't familiar with it or maybe heard of it, or because I have heard from patients coming in, well, that's just that TikTok disease. And where I feel like this helps bridge that gap. No, this is what I saw versus, just a creator on the platform. So it helps get the right info out there.
Yeah, and trust me, I believe that the medical experts who are on the platforms do an incredible job.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are really performing a public service by allowing people, to share their expertise, with the public. And, my real vision is for when a patient walks into their doctor's office and they say, hey, I saw this on Feel Better. Do you think I could have POTS? For the doctor to take that seriously
Yes.
and
Yeah.
not
Yes.
roll their eyes because it's a TikTok trend, right? For people who are not on TikTok or even Instagram, I cannot convince them of the value that's on that platform.
Right.
Right? It's a total non-starter. So for me, it was really important to build a platform that was rooted in medical expertise, but still take advantage of how people are communicating with one another,
Right.
which is through video
And consuming
social.
the content.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
yes.
I could write the most brilliant 2-page white paper on
Yep.
POTS. No one will ever read that.
No, but that
Nope.
couple
Okay.
second video, for sure.
Correct. Correct. That lives on forever.
Yes.
Right? And even now, that video is probably way outdated. And there are so many better, experts who should be giving the content. And what I will say, to give myself some credit, I am very good at creating a space for others to find one another and talk to one another. Because what I realized is that when I make videos, there are more likes for the comments than
Yes.
the original video
Yes.
that I post. Okay.
Yes.
And it's because my video is just kind of like the entryway
Yep.
to the conversation. And that's kind of now when I think about my purpose of creating content is that, right? Like I am a true expert in a very narrow subset of like hand surgery and orthopedic conditions. But I realize that people, they trust me. They understand that I have their best interests at heart, that I am utilizing my platform and my authority for good. And that's, we're trying to collect like-minded experts for this platform so that the public knows, all right, this is a safe and trusted place to go.
I wish, nutrition's my background, I wish that the way that social media is now with medical information is how the nutrition field, I feel like, has always been with cabbage diet or this weight loss or that kid's diet. And it's been years of dietitians like, these are the facts. This is like the reality. You can't just live on cabbage and things like that. And so I wish that this existed in the nutrition space a long time ago to help dispel some of this. But on that thread, I saw your recent post that you were saying about cutting an avocado. And I laughed out loud about not hitting the pit because all the hand surgeons were at a conference.
So it's funny because I went to that conference. I mean, that is my society, ASSH. But I was invited to teach doctors how to do social media. So I made that video just as a test to show them that if you make something that is like fun and funny, but also delivers some facts, that it's going to perform well. And so I made that video 10 minutes before I gave that talk. And I basically said, listen, I'm going to practice what I preach. I'm going to post this video. We're going to see how it does. And it went super viral. It had like over 3 million views. And pretty much anyone who was a hand surgeon, they were getting text messages from their friends and family. Like, are you in Vancouver? I heard all the hand surgeons are in Vancouver. And then they were like, do you know Dr. Nance? I became this mini celebrity. But that's the point, is that I think there is a way to deliver the information that is still engaging, but still credible, right? And evidence-based, but it doesn't have to always be a snooze fest.
Right. It's not a medical journal. It's not this long article where, boring lecture. It's
Correct.
simple, fast, small snippets of information that get you thinking.
Everybody is
Yes.
that is the way of the world. That is how people are consuming. Even like you said, if they don't have the TikTok, Instagram, those type of platforms, Feel Better does it. You don't have to have that. So that can be a standalone if some people are, some just don't do social media, but this is a way to get them credible videos, just like those type of platforms, but without any strings attached.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I wish I didn't even use the term social media when I describe it, because it's really, I think of it as you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? The method in which the content is being created, we know works, right? But the system, right? Like Facebook was founded as a hot or not, all right? Like the system, TikTok was founded for, music and dancing, right? These platforms were never intentionally built for sharing health information.
Right.
And health is one subject that you can't really retrofit, right?
No.
Back into these platforms. And I think we've seen the danger of what happens.
Yes.
They polled all doctors across America, and the number one concern that they had, not getting reimbursed by insurance, not preparing for the next global pandemic, it was combating medical misinformation online.
Yeah.
Okay. That was their number one concern. But the question is, well, then what are we doing about it?
Right. How do we do that then?
Correct. And as a group, we're not doing anything, right? We've got some individuals who have a presence online, are doing a great job, Dr. Betsy Grunch, Dr. Mike, tons of great different creators. But we're kind of on our own little islands.
Yes.
Right? And we're all competing for the same attention that Alex Earl is getting and ESPN is getting.
Yep.
So I really wanted to create Feel Better as this intentional space for health, because when you are searching for something health related, you don't care about the background music.
No.
You don't care about what font I chose for the captions. Okay?
Yes.
All you care about is the information and the source of the information.
Not the trendy dance, not something.
And listen, I love I love TikTok just as a consumer
Same.
of TikTok.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I was gone for an entire week last week in Hawaii and LA for business, for bringing on health systems to feel better. And so I had this whole week of like saved TikToks for my daughter and my husband who are not on social media. And for like 30 minutes, we were dying laughing. And as I said, like, I really love TikTok. I find the most like revelatory thing that I learned is that people are so clever and so witty.
Yeah.
They're so funny.
I know,
They're
and
so-
I
they're
consume
so
it
funny.
all. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and we do. And the weird dances or the bloopers, my kids, I have 2 boys, like the funnier bloopers, they crack up. Or the Halloween scare. Like, it is so true. And then it's like, but you see then the POTS things come through, or you see whatever else through. And when you are in such a low place, you're desperate to just have somebody to connect with or whatever. So you're right. I don't care about the dance music or the font or whatever. I'm just like, oh, wait, that sounds like me. So if they can get that from a credible place too, yeah, so much better.
Yeah. And, you know, through the Medical Detectives podcast, it's actually a patient storytelling podcast. So I play a very minimal role on the podcast, and I'm just kind of there for like the medical backup and, you know, to add a little bit of the you know, medical education part. But it's really about letting patients share their story. And, you know, the disease ends up being something different every week, but it's the same themes that again are again and again. And that's why I did that TED talk about the emotional framework for how to handle a misdiagnosis, because it's the same thing. People, you know, I say, you know, step 1 is denial. Like, oh, I just slept on it funny.
Oh, always.
You know, like, all right, like, oh, it's nothing. It'll go away. You know, and then you see all these different doctors and you're like anxiously waiting results. And then, oh, you get sent to the specialist. You're like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is the moment. And then they tell you that nothing's wrong. And you're like, oh my God. And then you're in denial. And you're like, well, maybe something wasn't wrong with me this whole time. Right. But then the symptoms don't go away. And now you're angry. She's like, well, I just spent all this money and I just spent all this time to get nowhere, but something is still wrong. And then you're just depressed about it because you're like, well, nothing's happening. There is no, you know, light at the end of the tunnel. So I think that sources like this podcast that you guys run, you know, part of Feel Better is I want it to be like the new Facebook group. I've had so many of my followers, and my followers are my beta testers for Feel Better. And as they describe to me, they're like, those Facebook groups are like the sick Olympics.
The worst. Worst.
They're like, we hate it there. Yeah. They're like, it is really helpful, but we hate it there.
So true.
And so I really, and they're run by these like admin overlords who are like, do you really have this?
And then they'll be like deleting things,
correct,
or you're not bad enough. I was like,
correct, you're not
get
bad
out,
enough, you're not
get out.
sick enough.
Yes,
Correct.
get out.
So like how we built Feel Better is that it is all open source. Okay. Yes. Like everything is out in the open. And trust me, I get it that if you are diagnosed with something, you do want to have a smaller group where, you know, the people have what they say they have. But to me, what I find is that when I talk to someone who's like already been diagnosed, say like with POTS, there is nothing that brings you more joy than helping someone else figure out if they have POTS.
Right. Because then they don't have to, like, you've been in that seat. So the more hope you can, just give them hope, or that it can get better, 1,000%.
You could help them know what objective data to look for, like checking your heart rate, or like, oh, not everyone that has POTS passes out. Like that's not typical for everybody. And so helping them feel, and that's what we've done here, is had some of our POTS Life graduates on and talk about, where they were at day 1 to where they were a year later, to just help inspire someone that like, yeah, right now you're sitting there undiagnosed, all these things, but like it can get better. You can see growth with the right, support out there.
Absolutely. And that's why we need these, podcasts like yours and the podcasts like the Medical Detectives, because people need to hear it from the people with the lived experience, right? I think it's so important. And I think it's really important as a physician to emphasize that, because it's one thing for the patients to, like, if a patient brings something up, sometimes it's almost seen like they're complaining.
100%.
Right? But if a doctor says like, oh, no, they're just pointing out, right? Like injustice in the system and whatnot. So I think it is imperative that more physicians kind of call out these problems in the system. And I've been very fortunate because I've always had my own practice. So I've never had anyone looking over my shoulder, right, to say like, oh, I can't believe you said that, or I can't, like, and I understand why some doctors don't feel comfortable having a presence online and talking about these things, right? It's kind of hard to talk bad about Kaiser if they're your
right. There's nothing you can do,
right? So I get it, but I think it is really, really important for the patients to hear that the doctors are also fed up with the system, and we don't want to only spend 10 minutes with you, and we do really care, and mistakes get made
1,000%.
really because of, again, these systemic, we talked earlier about the time to collect those dots, right? Physicians, we used to do house calls, and when we would do that, we wouldn't go to your house for 10 minutes.
Right.
We would go to your house for 2 hours.
Right.
Right. And they were able to collect all those dots because they were talking to you for 2
for that
hours.
long. Right.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
So it's just, I think that as of now, the system prioritizes volume over accuracy. And as long as that's how the system is, then these diseases like POTS, where it is difficult, it's not that home run strep test.
Right.
These diseases are going to be missed.
And it is common. I have patients in here say, I know my physician has this astronomical amount. Like, I work for myself, so I can spend that extra time. But I've also worked for health systems, and I know what the back end looks like. And there's no other way. So yes, you have to do so much collection on your own, and really, with the system that it is, maximize the time that you're in there with each different specialty.
Yes. And I will say that now, while there are issues also in terms of like bias, if you go to a doctor who specializes in POTS, you're probably going to diagnose with POTS, right?
Yep. Yes, 'cause they
so
know.
you have to understand that when you are that super subspecialist,
Yes.
every hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So you do have to keep that in mind. But if you just go to a general cardiologist, you may not get that diagnosis.
Correct.
Right.
And it's very difficult, and the general patient doesn't understand that, which is why we have to talk about these things, so that if they are told nothing's wrong with them, it doesn't necessarily mean that nothing is wrong with
Correct.
them. Right.
It's just might not be the right
You haven't
provider.
gotten to the right diagnostician.
Which is, I would say, with POTS, super common. And it was part of my own story. Nobody I saw was bad. It's just everything didn't add up till that final cardiologist. And then it all made sense. But sometimes that's a quick, you find the right person, and that's what it is. Yes, I say if it looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, probably a duck, but not everybody sees that. So no, it's so true. And I feel like just hopefully for the future, through your podcast and Feel Better and things like you said, like the conversation we're having today, awareness to not only just POTS, but these more difficult diagnoses, just more awareness comes, more credible data, and you can continue to get all those points and then build your story. If something's wrong and in your gut, then keep collecting those points, and then don't be afraid to take it to your physician and say, hey, what do you think?
Yes. But to understand that, I forget we talked about this first, but the physicians, they are used to dealing with data that is their data, right? So if you come, I think when people first started coming with their like Apple Watch, readouts, they'd be like, what is that?
Right.
They didn't take that to consideration. They're looking at EKGs.
Correct.
So sometimes it can be frustrating from a patient's perspective because they think they are collecting their symptoms, right?
Yes.
I honestly don't think any doctor is looking at your Aura Ring readouts and considering that true
Correct.
data,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
To be honest.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it's not valuable in some sense. But for right now, that is not considered medical data.
Right.
No.
It's not that it's not helpful, but it could open the door to ask new questions or follow up to get to the right thing, but it's not going to diagnose you this ring on your finger.
No, and there's a lot of black or white data. I mean, I say that there's some doctors that live and die by the tilt table. There's some that go in more of a gray area and they'll do a poor man's tilt and then go based off of symptoms. And it's dependent on the physician, I think, and just like their history. So you're right. Like sometimes the Apple Watch is good, but sometimes patients go in there guns blazing and they're like, look at all this. And then the doctor's like, that's not my black or white. So it's definitely partially advocating for yourself, but finding that right fit with the physician.
Yeah. And, I'll have patients who will come to me and say, I have carpal tunnel syndrome. I, saw about it online. I have carpal tunnel syndrome. And my job as the physician is to listen to your symptoms, examine you, and then say, you know what? You actually have small finger numbness, which is controlled by a nerve in your elbow called cubital tunnel syndrome. So you were right to be concerned that you have a nerve issue, but it's actually cubital tunnel and not carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
Right? There's a way to handle that
Yes.
where it doesn't make the patient feel like they're stupid or make the patient feel like they were a burden for,
Even
doing
coming.
their research and even coming. Right? And that's just part of the human aspect of being a doctor and how to take care of someone.
We have taken up too much of your time. I know you have to run to your next thing. I feel like
can't
we
even
could talk about this all day.
Yeah, because it gets me fired up.
Yeah, this is such a great topic for us. We've shared on the podcast because Kelsey got diagnosed. She has celiac and you have POTS. I have Crohn's disease. So we've all been through our battle of diagnosis. And I feel like the three of us could chat forever, but we need to be respectful for your time. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much. And I hope you will both accept my invitation to be on Feel Better because we really need as many, empathetic, credible voices as possible.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I would love to.
Yeah. Tell us one more time for everyone listening how to find you on all your platforms.
Yes.
So my main platform is TikTok and I'm Little Misdiagnosed. If you see a video of me, it's probably not my channel. If it's not that channel, there's so many imposter accounts.
Yes.
But that's fine. Little Misdiagnosed on TikTok. And then the podcast is called The Medical Detectives. And then Feel Better is the new medical social media app. Feel Better, BETR, one word.
Love it. Yes. I mean, I think people really need to look into it because it's a cool place. And I didn't even know anything like that existed till I had seen you on social media. So I feel like the more awareness we can get out there, and we'll tag and do all the things so people know exactly where to find you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. And continue spreading the awareness. And thank you again.
Thank you. For those of you listening, don't forget to subscribe. We're on all major platforms, and you could also watch us on YouTube.
Yep. We will see you next time. Bye.